Join me and learn how to make this fantastic free pattern for a bucket hat by Lee Gordon. So let's get started with our lovely bucket hat. I'm using Paintbox Cotton Aran. It's a lovely soft cotton blend. If you want something that's a little bit firmer, you can also use Paintbox Cotton Worsted yarn, which is a bit tougher and you can get a more of a fluted edge with that. I've got a 4.5mm crochet hook, a stitch marker, and we're going to start off with a magic ring. So a magic ring will give us a really sort of tight opening at the top of the hat so that you won't have a hole at the top. So it's a great thing to learn. There are a few ways of doing it, but this is my favourite. So you take the yarn with the tail of the yarn tipping over your hand towards you. Then we take the working yarn and wrap it around your two fingers so you make an X. And then I like to just secure that with my little finger there to sort of keep it safe. And then you put your hook under the first strand, grab the second strand, pull it through and then twist your hook. So holding the magic ring, just steady it with your hands, put the two tails together, the tail and the circle together in one hand, and bring the working yarn over under your finger. So you've got these two strands on the left hand side here. We're going to work over the top of those two strands, and then I'm going to bring the working yarn into my hand and just anchor the ring apart like that, so you're holding it nice and steady. And we're going to work 12 half double crochets into the ring. So yarn around, then come into the ring and pull up a loop. And then there's 3 loops on the hook, then yarn over and pull back through all 3. So this is a US half double crochet, a UK half treble. So make sure you keep those 2 strands together. We're working over the top of those, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and back through all 3. And we're going to work 12 of these into our magic ring. It is a bit fiddly, but you get used to the way that you're holding the ring just to make sure that you're crocheting over those 2 strands to keep it nice and neat. So I'm back now. I've got 12 half double crochet US, half trebles UK into my magic ring there. I'm just going to pull that loop up a little bit. Now to make the loop close, your little magic ring close, we pull the tail end of the yarn. So just hold it steady. I like to hold that a little bit there. And as you pull, it's quite magical really, there we are. Pull, 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 and that closes really nicely. And the tighter you close it, the tighter you pull it, the tighter it'll close. And the benefit of doing this is that you don't get the gap in the middle. If you really don't want to do a magic ring, you can chain 3, slip stitch to join a ring and then put your half double crochets in there, but you don't get this neat little circle that's completely closed. Right, so we've got our 12 half double crochets sitting here. We're going to start our next round, which will be 2 half double crochets in each stitch. So we do a yarn over, we go into the first stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. Now I've got the little stitch marker in there to show me where the beginning of the round is. So let's see. So we're doing 2 half double crochet US, half treble UK. Now wiggle this through because sometimes cotton can be a little bit tricky. So we're doing 2 half double crochets, whoopsie, as we go round in each stitch, and this gives us the beginning of the increases for our bucket hat. There we are. You can see them coming up nicely now. 1, 2, And you need to be careful with cotton that you're not pulling too tightly, because if you do, you can make it difficult to get the yarn through, and that can cause you to split it. So just try and be, if you're conscious that you're a very, very tight crochet, you might want to go up a hook size so that you don't end up splitting the yarn. So there we go. So we come all the way around. Oopsie. There we go. So we've come all the way around back to the beginning, where we've done 2 half double crochets in every stitch. That gives us a total of 24 stitches. Now, without joining up, we're going to move straight on to the next round, which has 1 stitch, 1 half double crochet into the first stitch. Just wiggle that through. And 2 in the next. So this is our next round. This is round 3. We do, well, let's just wiggle that in. 1 half double crochet in the first stitch, 2 in the second, and then we repeat 1, 2 all the way around. So in the next stitch, just 1 half double crochet, 2, 1, 2, and I will finish this round and meet you back at the beginning. Okay, we're now ready for round 4, and in exactly the same way we're going to work round doing an increase, and where we had 1 half double then 2 in the next stitch, we're actually going to change that now, and we're going to do 1 half double, 1 half double, and then 2 in the next stitch. So we're doing 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. So let's start that one. And this is the way that these things sort of progress. So we're going to do a half treble in the first stitch. It's a half double crochet US, a half double crochet US, half treble in the second stitch. So that's 1, 2, and then 2 in the following stitch. 1, 2, and then we repeat that. So we do 1 in one stitch, 1 in the next stitch, and then 2 in the third. 1, 2. And we're going to repeat that all the way around back to the stitch marker. So it's 1, 1, 2 in this round. Okay, now we're ready for round 5. I'm going to move the stitch marker. It's there on the last stitch, and it's hand. I mean, I only move my stitch marker probably every couple of rows, so just kind of know where I am, but you can change it every row and that's fine. So for round 5 we're following a similar pattern. We're going to do 3 half double crochets and then 2. So we're doing the first 3 stitches, yarn over, in we go, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 in the next stitch. And this repeat will just follow all the way around. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 in the fourth. The same stitch. And that's the way we're going to work around for round 5. I'll see you back at the end. Okay, so that was round 5. Now we're going to do round 6 and 7. So there's my little stitch marker, so I'm going to pop it on the last stitch again. So this time we're going to follow the same style of increase that we've been doing. This time we're going to work 4 stitches with the half double crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the 5th one we're going to put 2. So yarn over, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to put 2 in the 5th stitch. 1, 2. So we're going to repeat that for round 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2. And then for round 7, we're going to do exactly the same, except 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2. So I shall see you here ready for round 8. So we've stopped doing our increases, so we've got our nice sort of top of the head, the crown of the head of the hat. And we're now going to start working towards the brim. So I'm going to just move my stitch marker back a space, so I know where I am. And I'm going to work a slip stitch into every stitch around the hat. Now a slip stitch, a very neat little thing. You just put your hook into the stitch and pull the yarn through the stitch and back through the loop. So we go through and back through the loop. Now the slip stitch is used often to either make a line or a marker, or to travel without actually increasing any height. And you can see, I'll just do a few more of these slip stitches around, and you'll see that it gives a really nice little edge. In this particular case, there we go, that's how it looks. In this particular case, it's going to be where the hat starts to work downwards. So I'm just doing you go in, pull it through and through the loop on your hook, into the stitch, pull it through and through the loop on your hook. So we're going to work all the way around until you get back to your marker. Okay, for round 9, we've got our lovely slip stitches all the way around, which has given it a slight ridge. And if you imagine that this is the top of your hat, and then from this point we're going to come down so that we're going to do the sides of the hat now, and then the brim. So we're going to make a little ridge, and we do that by working a single crochet US, which is a double crochet UK, and we're going to work it over the top of the slip stitches that we've already worked. So I'm going to put my hook in there, right under, so we're actually working into the stitches from the row before there. So I'm going to put my hook in, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through. I'll show you again. So I'm actually going into the stitch before, and there in between almost. And this is going to kind of allow us to drop down for the hat. So we're going into, so we're almost enclosing the stitch, those slip stitches that we've just put all the way around. So we work round into the stitches. So remember, we're going into the row before to enclose those slip stitches. Can you see how that's kind of bringing us down a little bit, so the hat's beginning to come over to the side of the hat? So I'll just show you a few more of those. We're going into the stitch above. So if you think, normally you'd work into the legs of the stitch right on the edge, but we're going up one to work in the row before, and we're enclosing those slip stitches. And this is a good preparation for the stitch we're going to do in the next round, which is called waistcoat stitch. We'll see that in just a minute. So as I'm working all the way around, we're going to work those stitches until we get right back round to our stitch marker. So I shall see you there. Right, so we've done our work around the hat now, and you can see it's really nicely enclosed the slip stitches, and the hat is just beginning to tip over the edge there. It's really clever. So the next thing we're going to do is to work a stitch called waistcoat stitch, and waistcoat stitch is also sometimes called the crochet knit stitch because it looks a bit like knitting. Some people might call it the center single crochet or center double crochet because it works in the middle of a stitch. So where we've done a US single crochet, which is a UK double crochet, is one here. You can see that there is a V, and to work the waistcoat stitch we work straight into the V. We don't go underneath the legs of the stitch, which we'd normally do. We actually go straight through this V. Now it's a little bit fiddly, and once you get going it's absolutely fine, it's nice and easy. So I'm going to put my hook through the V, and sometimes you have to wiggle it through a little bit, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both loops. So I'm going not into the normal stitch but into that V there, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through. So this waistcoat stitch is what we're going to use now for the next 3 rows. So for rows 10, 11 and 12 we're going to use waistcoat stitch. So we're working straight into the 2 legs of the V there, put my hook straight through, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. It's just like doing a single crochet US double crochet UK, but instead of putting it in a normal place you're going to put it into the V of the stitch. Now can I just show you, as it starts to show up you get the V's sitting right on top of each other, so it looks a bit like knitting. That's why sometimes it's called the knit stitch. So I'm going to carry on round. So we've got 3 rows of this. So I'm going to meet you back here after 3 rows of waistcoat stitch. Right, so as you can see, we have now worked the 3 rows of waistcoat stitch, and you can see why it's sometimes called knit stitch, because it looks like knitting. So it's just these little V's sitting on top of each other. Now the important thing when you do waistcoat stitch is that you don't pull your stitches too tight. And I would even say that if you know that you're very tight crocheter, go up a hook size for this, because sometimes you might have found it's difficult to get your hook in between those 2 V's. So here we are now round 13, and we're going to do an increase round. So you can see this is how the hat is sitting now, and we're going to come up, or should we say down, into the body of the hat before we get to the brim. And so we're going to do a little increase row, and this is waistcoat stitch in 6 stitches and then 2 in the following stitch. So like we did with the increase rows before. So I'm putting my hook in between the 2 V's, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through. It's exactly the same thing. So we're putting the hook in between the V legs of the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'm actually trying to, whoops, got a bit caught there. I'm actually trying to make this quite loose. So we go in there, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through. So that's 1, 2, 3. Next one. 1. That's quite a wiggle sometimes. 2, 3. That's our 6 stitches. And then, whoopsie, we're going to do 2 in the following stitch, and then let's put 2 in there, and then we repeat this all the way around back to the marker. So I'm putting 1, and it's going to be quite a tight fit to put 2 in there. That's what it's going to look like with 2, and then we repeat that all the way around until you get back to the marker. So 6 and then 2 in the next stitch, 6 and then 2 in the next stitch. So I'll see you when we get the other end. Right, so we have done our increase. You can see 2 waistcoat stitches in that one, and then another 6 and 2. So we've done our increase round. Now the next sort of 13 rounds are very simple. If we're just working a waistcoat stitch into every stitch all the way around until we get to round 27. So this forms the sort of the depth of the hat. And just as a sort of little reminder, remember with the waistcoat stitch, we're going to go into the V of the stitch, into the 2 V legs of the stitch there, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both. We often say with waistcoat stitch that you can go up a hook size if you know that you're a very tight crocheter, but otherwise just gently keep your stitches nice and loose. If you find that you've got one that's particularly tricky, just grab a needle, pop your needle in and widen up that hole a little bit so that your hook can go straight in. But obviously you don't want to be doing that for every single stitch. So just try and work your waistcoat stitches as relaxed and as loose as you can. Right, so we have another, well, from 14, this is round 14, up to round 27. Just keep going round and round and round, 1 stitch, 1 waistcoat stitch in every stitch. I'll see you at the end of 27 rounds. Right, so I have now done these 13, 14 rows of waistcoat stitch. And so I've worked all the way around, and as you can see, it's really looking like a hat now. There you go, that's the inside. I've switched onto a new ball just halfway through there. And so now we have the next row, and this row on row 28 is actually, I don't know if you remember row 8, which we worked so long ago, is up here, which is a slip stitch row. And so what we're doing now is we're going to start the brim. So the first thing that we do is we're going to slip stitch all the way around. And by slip stitch, I mean, so you put your hook back into where we'd normally put the hook, pull through, and then pull straight through the loop on your hook. And it's a flat stitch, just gives a nice edge. Pull through the loop on your hook. So in it goes, pull through the stitch and through the loop on your hook. And what this does is it gives us a little marker, like we had further up here, for starting the brim of the hat. So I shall see you back when I've gone all the way around and gone back to my marker. So we're now going to work the increase round, which is going to help the brim of our hat start to wiggle and be fluted like you'd want a bucket hat to be. So in order to do that, we're going to work an increase round. So the way that the repeat goes, we work a half double crochet US, half treble UK into the first 6 stitches, and then 2 into the next stitch. And then we repeat that 6, 2 all the way around. Just like we did up here, where you've got where the side of the hat began, we're going to work over the top of the slip stitches, and this gives it a nice ridge. So instead of going into the stitch, we're going to go under that stitch and work the half double crochet, half treble UK. So I'm going to put my hook in here instead of under just the V's. Yarn over under the stitch, so you're encapsulating that slip stitch. Yarn around under the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 more. 1, 2, and then when you've worked 6 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're then going to work 2 half double crochets, or 2 half trebles if you're in the UK, into the next stitch. Yarn around underneath, so that's 1 and 2. Now this is the repeat that you're going to work all the way around. Just move my hook out of the way so you can see that properly. 6 stitches and then 2 in the next stitch, and we were just going to repeat that all the way around, and I shall see you back at the beginning. So we've just done our first increase round all the way around the hat in US half double crochet, which is UK half trebles. The next round, round 30, is just plain half double crochet, half trebles all the way around. And then the next few rounds, all the way up to the end of the hat, are alternating between just a plain round and an increase round. So I'm going to work the next 6 rows, 6 rounds, including the increases, and you can find all the details of those on the page on the website, which has got the whole pattern written out for you. It's a free pattern that you can just use however you like, and I will see you at the end, and hopefully we'll end up with a lovely fluted brim. So here we are, we've finally got the end of our hat. Just want to show you here this lovely little fluted edge. So it looks absolutely great, and the perfect thing to wear on your holidays in the sun. Make it in all sorts of colours. It only takes 2 balls of paint box cotton worsted or cotton Aran, and it's super fashionable. So make one in every colour of the rainbow, and happy crochet.